Welcome, everyone, to a special edition of the Pick Six podcast. I know we normally wait for Friday, but we had a wild weekend in college football this weekend, namely Arcane. So I am here with my co host, Rudy Tamarchio. Rudy, how many hours of sleep did you get last night?
As most fans do. I'm lighting sage right now because I'm trying to ward off these close call demons right now to say,
Bro,
let's go back to what we were doing games 1 through 4. But
uh,
how
man.
how late? How much sleep did I get? I didn't really get to bed until about 4 a.m.
Yeah,
because once the game is over with, and it was like 2:30 around that time that the game ended.
yeah, you need
There
to
was no
decompress.
going to
I think
sleep.
every Canes fan needed to decompress.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
whole lot of decompressing
Yeah,
because
the cardiac canes showing up once again. I didn't think it would happen this year because I thought we would have our ish together. But, once again, cardiac canes rearing its head around. Just for anyone who has been living under a rock, UM came back from a 25-point deficit in the third quarter from the Cal Bears, snatching defeat from them. Just like we almost were down and out. And somehow, I mean, you and I were texting through last night, and I think you were the
yeah.
voice of reason as I was on the emotional roller coaster and in a glass case of emotion like Ron Burgundy. And it was just a wild weekend, a wild night. Also, it's all those games. I mean, it was insane just to
It was
watch
an upset
Bama go
Saturday.
down. Like it was, and then watching us play the way that we played, I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for you. I'll let you say your part, but like I genuinely felt like this is it. This is where we meet the statistic. We're going to be added as another number in this group, and we're going to fall to a
Well,
team that's below us and that we should have easily beaten.
well, you were joking about being the voice of reason for the text message there. I mean, that's something that I've been for the longest time is semi delusional in terms of how long is Miami in the game for?
Yeah.
Because like 2012 season where you go up and play Notre Dame, and it's like, man, if we don't drop those two, long bombs early in the game, we're in this. The number of times I felt like we were still in Miami was still in games late because all they were doing was shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly over and over again. It didn't matter how like insurmountable the lead felt. It's like if you can get one quick drive together and then your defense can get a 3 and out and get a stop, then you could put another drive together. That's where comebacks start coming from. And I think maybe part of the delusion on my side was watching some of the really great comebacks from the early 2000s. Like I was at that game. I don't know if you were for
The
2003
the
against the
UF
Gators in the
game?
Orange Bowl. Yeah, I
No,
was there for that.
I feel like I have to make a confession. My freshman year, I
That's
went
right.
to FSU. It was my safety school. I was deferred till spring, and I took it personally. And so I chose to stay at FSU for an entire year. My mistake, but I learned,
Well,
came back
well, that
that
was the best
sophomore year
part.
to UM. But no, the great thing though, I will say this. As a UM fan, I got to be at that 2003 game in Tallahassee in the rain, which was wild. But I did watch that week, and I watched that game where we played Florida, where it was Brock Berlin, right?
That was her
Brock
home
Berlin.
home debut.
It's so funny. Like when you go through, what are they called? The aughts now, the 2010s, the late 2000s. I don't know what they're called. They're called the aughts, I think. I don't know. But that whole era of UM football, like you wish, like when we had Kyle Wright, like you wish for a Brock Berlin again. Like as much crap as we gave that guy, you wish for a Brock Berlin. And now we finally have a quarterback in Cam Ward. And I will say this: I did text you, I think at halftime, where I was like, if we don't get our defense together, I'm remaining hopeful, but if we don't get our defense together, this game's over. And it was amazing. I think that first drive, our defense was a stud after the first half. Let me pull my phone up because I took a really
Yeah.
funny screenshot of because like I was just like, I just want to see this just in case, because like this is the thing. I was like, what if we do come back? And it was funny at halftime. The odds of us winning were 72.7%. And then when you got to the end of the third quarter, our odds of winning were excuse me, Cal's odds of winning were 72.7 at halftime. And then Cal's odds of winning at the end of the third were 98.6.
Yeah.
Like I want to feel bad, but I don't.
No.
Because it's
No.
just like How wow, I mean, you wanna talk about just the magician doing magic. I mean, Cam Ward, we have to understand this, I think, as Canes fans, we are going to live and die by whatever Cam Ward does, and Cam we trust, you know what I mean? And I have surrendered it after last night's game. If we lose a game, it's I'm gonna take it because he's pulled us out of so many holes and he's done so many incredible things that only he could have done that if 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 one L comes with Cam Ward, I'm gonna take it because I'd rather have one L with Cam Ward than have 5 losses without him, you know?
Yeah, the thing with Cam, and I think it's something that again, he's looking and he's learning through this as everybody else is. He knows he needs to be in big game atmosphere. He needs to deliver when it comes through. It's just a matter of minimizing some of those mistakes, and it's picking your opportunities to be the playmaker that you are. Because hey, I think at this point in the season, he already has enough Heisman memories, Heisman moments that he's made between evading tacklers at Virginia Tech or
Yeah.
leading this comeback by scoring 21 in the fourth quarter. I mean, he had like 277 yards alone in the second half. So for him, you can win the Heisman now playing really boring and hitting that guy in the flat that's open for 5 yards and just put up 300 yards a game with 3 touchdown passes and no interceptions. And he can just do that for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
There's no need for any more hero ball at this
I
point
I I
because
think again, it's
yeah.
it's one of those things you really kind of I kinda just wanna pull up some of the stats from last night. I think it's just one of those things where you just kind of understand who Cam Ward is, and I that's why I honestly I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I would at the same time be really surprised if his stock goes down for the Heisman. Just because for the pure fact that I understand he is a little bit of a gambler and he is going to sling it. And it costs you. I mean, we've seen in the last 2 games with these costly turnovers. Last night, I mean, we saw it twice with Virginia Tech. There were 2 interceptions that were almost pick sixes. One that Arroyo stopped, and then one that we got on the sideline from, I think that was not Spencer, it was the other one, that was in the second quarter. Those 2 easily could have been pick sixes. And then we saw it last night, that costly. And you could just, I'm not sure if you felt this way when he laid it up, but like the second he threw that off his foot, turning his torso, I just had a feeling I was like, this is a pick. And then when they zoomed out and you could see him running, I was like, yeah, that's a pick six. And I honestly believed, I even put it in my notes. I was like, that pick six on the first possession of the second half could be a spiraling point. Any other team, any other year, we would have spiraled out. That would have been it. That would have been the final nail in the coffin. Hang up your cleats, hang up your pads. We're done. But again, this comeback. Let's actually talk about the comeback really quick because I think it's a little different than the Virginia Tech one in the sense that this game was pretty much out of hand. I mean, the announcers were doing their best to kind of relate it to the Virginia Tech game and saying, "Oh, Miami's come back," but this was 25 at one point, 17 for the most part in the fourth. It That's a hard thing, and especially when your defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, in the first half. Like, I mean, there was nothing. What was you going through your mind, Rudy, as you were watching the game, especially going into the second half and that first possession by Cal and our defense?
It was complementary football is what was needed to be done because, the first half was ugly defensively, and
Yeah,
then it was also semi-ugly offensively in terms of trying to like string things together because you saw Miami was trying to really establish the run game early. But once you get behind and you give up 21, straight points, 3 straight drives of touchdowns, there was like four catches of like over 50 yards for them. And
yeah,
it wasn't like they were just scheming Miami to death. Miami wasn't lining up properly. They weren't playing proper
no,
defense. They were
yep,
missing tackles left and right. So the,
yes,
the thing to go back was to figure out what are those adjustments going to be in the second half. And
that's
when
what
you
I
go
thought.
out that first possession, you're like, oh, okay, they figured some stuff out. That's great. That pick six was a big problem because you're expecting your offense to now take the opportunity that you're given and start cutting into that lead. I think what's interesting though about like you mentioned, Miami teams of the past, that's like the death knell for them previously. You saw a lot of the old Miami behavior really in that first half when it came to just, and even, throughout the course of the game, it wasn't just the first half, but
No, yeah, no,
silly,
they get this.
unsportsmanlike conduct penalties.
Yeah, there were there
Like
were there were a lot of things in the comeback where I just felt we were shooting. I mean, I even noted it here. I was like, we just keep so many opportunities for us to lose the game, costly penalties, missed tackles, broken coverage, potential targeting on Cal's second to last drive, and a
Yeah.
late personal foul on Horton, kicking that player while he was on the floor, that Cal player while he was on the floor. I mean, when I tell you, like, there to me, and I joked with you about this, but I was like, this is kind of looking like a setup. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen so many things go wrong for a team, but at the same time, us come back and the resiliency of this team. Again, are we going to go undefeated? I have no idea. I doubt it. I won't lie.
Hey,
Not to say that I've lost. Not maybe.
who's going to stop that offense for 4 quarters? Because you're talking
That's
about one of
very
the top
true.
ranked
I'll give you that. But here's
one
where
of the
my concern is. Here's where my concern is. So you got Jaden Ott, right, who is their star running back and who is set to have a breakout game, which he did. But here's the crazy thing: in the first half, Cal only rushed for 11 yards.
Mhm,
11 yards. That's wild. But they threw. They still use Jaden Ott. They threw for 204,
mhm,
which Mendoza looked like a stud. That guy, ice in his veins. I mean, that kid played lights. I mean, at the end of the stretch, he played, you know, for like a Cal quarterback, like that. Like, again, not nothing against like Aaron Rodgers or any of the other incredible quarterbacks that have come out of Cal, but like you expect that from Cal in the last couple of years. Like, it's not like they play up to their competition, but they don't close games. That's who kind of Cal is. But I mean, Mendoza played like a beast, and that, like I said, that stat stuck out to me so much. 204 through the air, like that's a glaring issue for our defense. I think that's been an issue the last couple weeks, and I
yeah.
think that's something we're going to have to really tighten up in this offseason. What do you
It
think
just
about our secondary?
it goes back to complementary football because the thing about Mendoza is that he looked good, but at the same time, Miami gave him all the opportunities that they needed to because he was getting the ball out quickly. So you're negating the pass rush because he's
That's
getting the
true.
ball out so fast. So the secondary isn't lined up properly. They're not running. They're getting confused in coverage. But then also just good football IQ from the play calling of Cal because Miami goes for it on fourth down in the first half. Like it was early in the game. I don't know why they made that play call where Elijah Arroyo gets stuffed on that little like cute out route and he
Yeah,
gets stuff right short of the barrier. Well, that's ball for Cal right at the 50-yard line or inside the 50-yard line. They take a deep shot and they get it within the red zone right there. So it's taking advantage of your opportunities and taking advantage of a Miami defense that was just completely lost. And they made those adjustments in the second half. More or less, they give up one or two, plays again, but they really locked down and started getting tackles for loss. So you started seeing that complementary football really start coming in for Miami's favor again late in the second half, late in the third quarter, where the defense starts getting stops and Miami's offense is cranking. They're getting yards, they're getting scores, and that's the beginning of it. I mean, if you look at that again, similar to the Virginia Tech game, if Miami doesn't make stupid mistakes that hurts themselves, be penalties, bad play call execution, silly turnovers, this is a totally different game.
yeah.
They're just
I
manufacturing
mean,
drives, and
even
yeah,
this game, you take the pick six out, you keep everything else in, we still would have won the game. Like,
yeah,
we wouldn't have had to even make that last drive. Like, that's the thing. And that's why I said at the beginning of this, if you're a UM fan, if you love Cam Ward, you are going to have to stomach the probability. It's not even like the potential, it's a probability at this point that we may lose at least one game. But that's going to come with the territory. Because like I said, I'd rather have one, because we're only going to, I think realistically, this team's only like a one-loss team if we are going to lose a game. But without Cam Ward, we're losing 6 games, 5 games. I mean, I'm not trying to like poo poo on the team. The team is amazing, but Cam Ward is. I mean, you could see it even on the last drive. Him talking to the receivers, and I'm again not sure what exactly they were talking about. Like, this guy takes control, and then you see it also in the celebration afterwards. I'm not sure if you saw any of the app post game celebrations where guys were coming up to Cam, and you could just, as men, when another dude recognizes the dude. Like, you're just like,
mhm.
that guy is the guy, and that's my guy, and I'm gonna follow him, and I'm gonna go to battle with this guy no matter what, win or lose. And that is something we haven't had, especially. I mean, again, nothing against TVD, but that was something I hated about TVD. Like that he had no like fire or oomph in him to get his team fired up and to instill confidence in his teammates. And we're seeing that with Cam Ward. I don't want to leave the Cal defense because I think the Cal defense really deserves their flowers because what was that guy's name? You
Uluave, yeah.
Ulalave. That guy, his draft stock just in this game alone. What was it? 14 tackles himself by
Yeah,
halftime.
he had
That
double-digit tackles before the half, yeah. The problem with him was and actually, I think it was kind of the problem with the entire Cal defense is, look, let's credit strength and conditioning. Let's credit Aaron Feld from Miami
felt I
because
love him. He's a great guy, by the way. He got his son was getting his haircut next to my son's when they
oh,
first moved here, and him and his wife super sweet, super awesome people. Definitely not from Miami. And
yeah.
I pray for them constantly. I'm like, please, Lord, don't let anyone touch like destroy their light. They're so awesome. They're so sweet, and they're very nice. But yeah, shout
Yeah,
out to
their
Coach Feld.
conditioning was just so much better
Yeah,
because if you look, like part of the execution for Miami was that they were just so much better conditioned. They were still fresh in the third and fourth quarter, and that Cal defense couldn't keep running with their hair on fire like they were doing in the first half. And Uluave, yeah, he made some great plays, but he also talked a lot of smack, and he also was, trying to help, prod some of those unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, grabbing a guy's towels and grabbing other, parts of equipment that they have on them, and making players like Jacoby George just freak out. But end of the day, he's got his hands in his face on the sideline. Miami's winning that game.
yeah, and yeah, but see, that's also another thing too. Like I felt bad for him, but I also was like, bro, like you're a dude for your team. Like you should be on
Yeah.
the sidelines firing your offense up. You should be going up to Mendoza and saying, "Hey, you got us here. We kept up our end of the bargain for the most part. We're trying to like we need you to go out on this last drive and do what you do." And I mean,
They knew it was
I know we're
over.
bouncing around, but either way, like I just felt like Cal. Like I was just like I saw him crying on the sidelines, and I'm like, I get it, bro. But
They knew it was over. At that point, they knew it's
yeah.
over because the momentum is all there. And
Well, I think
again, yeah,
this was the weird thing. So Canes fan Chris was like, "Oh my god, please don't get excited, don't get excited, don't get excited, don't get excited." But like analytical me was watching it and I'm just like, I'm sensing a momentum shift here. And I think and it was not the last drive, but it was the second to last drive when we were driving and I was like, I think we may actually come back. And then you look on that second to last drive, and it only took Cam 2 minutes and 53 seconds to get down the field to score. And there was still like, I think 4 minutes and like 40 seconds on the clock. And I was like, if we can get them in and out of 3 and out in 2 minutes, that leaves him the exact amount of time, if not 20 seconds more, for him to score again, because he can do it. Like we it's been proven. I mean, Cam can score in under 3 minutes if necessary. And so when we were driving on that second to last drive to get to 32, I was like, I literally fell asleep. I won't lie. I fell asleep in the, the very beginning of the fourth quarter. I had to rewatch the beginning of the fourth quarter this morning. And I
it's weird to
woke,
be a Miami fan to like be relaxed when we have the ball on offense, isn't it?
you know what's wild? I was thinking about this during the game. I was like, it's funny the dynamic shift between the offense and the defense from last year and this year. So last year our defense was saving us from everything. Our offense couldn't do anything. And this year our offense seems to be saving us from everything. Our defense is definitely playing amazing. And like again, credit and we'll get into it. We will get into the defense in a second. They played lights out in the second half, especially those last two drives where Cal had the ball. Incredible. But the Cal defense, I have to say, they allowed more points than they have all season with us. I get it, but I mean, credit to them. They played hard. They knew what to do. I mean, our O line. I'm a little concerned, Rudy. I will
I'm not.
not. We're getting Jalen back apparently. I'm not sure if you saw
Yeah,
Mario's presser afterwards. He says he is expecting Jalen back, but I'm just like, man, there were some costly penalties. There were some really bad missed assignments, and then again, I'm not seeing the push we were seeing in like that Florida game. You
I'm
know,
still not that concerned though, because like it's
tell
only
me why.
the offensive line did its job in terms of you're only going to protect the guy for X couple of seconds, and when they started bringing pressure early in the first half, yeah, a couple guys went through. They adjusted because Cal showed some different looks that they hadn't shown anybody else this year, or they're just doing late shifts. So Miami would call its protection. Then, like literally the second before the ball snapped, they would all shift over and make a run at it,
I
and
did notice
they
that. Yeah,
pick up, yeah, they pick up what they can. But like, remember, this team lives and dies with Cam. When Cam's on his game and he knows, hey, I can check it down here. I can buy a play instead of having to worry about the guy who's 40 yards downfield. If he can, maneuver his way and try to get someone that's 5 or 10 yards downfield, this is a different ball game. He was just, they're not in sync. They're missing a couple of opportunities of where they want to take what the defense gives them, and that's something that Miami did a lot of in the first 4 games. They just took exactly what the defense was giving them. In terms of the running game, I think Miami was more successful there than it has been all season.
Oh,
It's just that
absolutely.
the terms of the game dictated that Miami was going to be, throwing because they were playing from so far behind. I think they attempted like 53 throws on that, like on 83 total offensive plays, which, by the way, hell of a lot of offensive possession for Miami,
Yeah.
given the circumstances.
Well, I mean, I think that's also why the first half, and just to like wrap up with Cal's defense. I mean, that's why it's a tale of two halves because I mean, Cal had the ball for 21 minutes and 28 seconds. Like, what are you gonna do as an offense? And that's a tired defense. That's you can kind of see how the bleeding started occurring, the precipitous decline of our defense started going on. I mean, the dudes were on the field for 21 minutes. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
long time to be on the field. And especially when you get into those late night hours, it's I mean, I don't make too much of the time. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I think we, like you said, the conditioning played through, but there were definitely things that it didn't look like it was supposed to go the way it was supposed to go. Like everything should have gone with Cal, with the way that the time, the way they played, the way we were playing. The game should have gone to Cal. But going to our offense now, um, I'm just gonna say it. It's not gonna be a popular opinion. I think we need to bench Martinez and we need to make Fletcher running back one. I think he proved it. I think it's as clear as day. I'm not saying Martinez is bad. I'm not saying Martinez isn't useful. Martinez made some amazing, especially that last drive, some amazing plays to get us in a great position. But when you look at it, and when I look at it, I feel like Fletcher is just a much better. He's the future, and we need to play to the future. What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's so much benching somebody. I think it's more along the lines of it's just what the personnel dictates in the situation. So I don't like thinking that Damian Martinez is like the first string running back and that Mark Fletcher is number two. I think it's you play your personnel to your matchups. And yeah, Fletcher had some great runs against Cal. Martinez had his moments. We didn't see a whole lot of Jordan Lyle, and he didn't really perform that well in the couple of opportunities that he did have. You had Chris Johnson there for a couple plays. Some is window dressing, some needed better blocking.
Yeah,
It's just finding the right group of guys that you need in terms of executing against the personnel that Cal had on the field. And I think Martinez did a fine job. And I'm not going to blame him for Miami's offensive struggles. I think that was just more Cam Ward had to just figure himself out. And once once everything kind of came together, there was no stopping him. So
yeah. I feel like we should
the
use it's
next
like
game is different.
a thunder and lightning kind of combo. Where you use Martinez for the power plays, the third and shorts, and then out the gate, those first maybe second down runs that you want to run. That's when you really use Fletcher, and especially Fletcher to the outside because he's got speed. He can run. I would love to see Chris Johnson again. I know everyone's talking about that. I would love to see Chris Johnson be used a little bit more. Um, Someone else. Who's the freshman wide receiver that we have? JoJo Trader.
Yeah, he got in once
He
in
got in
that game
once.
late. That
Yeah,
was
I
because
saw.
Restrepo had to leave the field because his helmet got
Helmet
knocked
got
off on the
knocked off
play
in it.
blocking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Would love to see JoJo Trader. Haven't seen him or his name called that much this season, but again, true freshman is what it is, and we've got studs already. Um, but speaking of wide receivers, we got to talk about these Butterfingers we've got because there were a lot of crucial plays that could have made this game a lot different had balls been catched. Um, you had talked about one that like what was that? Was that Horton in the end zone?
Yeah, so Isaiah Horton had one in the first half where Cam Ward puts this ball right in his breadbasket. And granted, the defensive back got there a little early, but you're already like outsizing your opponent there. you just got to get a little big and come down with that catch. There was a couple others that happened. Sam Brown had a several drops. It seemed like he's kind of fighting his way through. And the worst part is when he was performing, his performance gets negated because of a bad penalty against Jacoby George.
Yeah, I mean,
Because in that first half, he was doing really
we
well.
won't get into officiating. We will not get it. I'm going to try and
No,
steer away from that as much as possible. But yeah, there were again little upset. I mean, again, I think the great thing about these players is you can get very upset with them quickly by seeing manageable plays that they're dropping, and like literally or just figuratively, like either like they get tackled too early or they don't make the catch, but then they do something down at the end of the game where you're just like, well, if they weren't there, would the game still go like that? And so it again, I think that's what we have to take as Canes fans with this, is the fact that some of these guys are, oh, I lost Rudy. You there, Rudy?
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
back now.
awesome. Lost you there for a quick second.
It's a rainy night in South Florida. All this
It,
stuff is happening, but it's
listen.
nice. It's like ASMR for us. You have some raindrops. I'll light some candles. To,
We've got the
to,
sage going. We're good. We're good. We're
that's right.
Gucci.
This is a therapy session.
I've already finished my fourth Celsius for the day because my 2-year-old woke me up at 5 a.m. after a nice little hour and a half nap from the game. So I've been up since 5 a.m. It's been great. It's been a fun day. Um, but yeah, I think I don't want to sound like I'm poo-pooing on the team. I think these are just all things I would like to see cleaned up in the bye week,
Yeah.
and they're things that it's funny, like, and I feel like people who may not be fans or maybe casuals, they'll be like, I why it's like, why are they playing so crappy in the first half? And or why are they in these games that they shouldn't be in when they're just scoring almost on demand? They're just manufacturing these drives. And I think that's where we kind of have to like take note. And Mario said something that like it was a throwaway line, but it was something that was very uncharacteristic of Mario. He actually admitted, he's like, we're really beat up going into this bye week. He was like, we need this bye week because we're pretty beat up. And that was something that was kind of refreshing to hear from Mario, because you do wonder, you're like, what, the team that came out the first 3 4 games is not the team that's playing now. But when you understand that there's key players that are missing, that a lot of players are probably playing beaten up, you can see why there's been a slight decline in the play. And then again, we'll talk about this with the offense, sticking with the offense, a lot of hero ball. And what do we say with hero ball, Rudy? You know?
Yeah, look, it takes everybody. It's something that
Yep.
hero ball gets you in trouble on the offense. It gets you in trouble on the defense because that's when you're out of position, you're missing tackles, you're not setting the edge.
Yep.
And on offense, it's you're missing a block, you're missing a guy that's open, you're not blocking downfield for something else happening because you're trying to do it all on your own. And
Yep.
sometimes you have to just take what you can and get yourself down. And look, the receivers have done a pretty good job of that. Granted, there's a few different drops. We haven't talked about the unsung hero Xavier Restrepo yet, but
Ugh,
he's going to
X.
have just in terms of the number of fourth downs that Miami had to convert on their last 2 drives to get scores. They always went back to Restrepo for the most part, and
Which is wild to
everybody
me.
has,
Like the
yeah,
fact that he was open as many times as he was, I'm like, that's Cam's best friend pretty much. I mean, maybe not literally, but like that's his go-to. And not only that, that was TVD's go-to. That is just Miami's go-to. I mean, I don't care who the quarterback is. You're going to X. Like if
yeah.
you need a play where it's third and even medium, you're going to X. That's it. It's a very simple formula, And yeah, X played lights out last night. I was extremely impressed with him. 7 receptions for 163 yards. He averaged 23.3 yards. And then there was that last catch on the final drive where he took it, what, like 35 yards, I think it was, or something like that, where
The,
we
the
were on our
70
7
yarder.
yard
It
line.
was a
We on
70 yarder.
it was
Yeah.
a 70 yard. I mean, it
Yeah. Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
I mean, that play in itself, like that was one of those plays where I'm watching it and I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, is this happening?
Yeah.
Did that just really, like, I was waiting for a Cal defender to come out from the sides, like from my screen. I'm like, I don't have a wide enough aspect ratio of TV. I'm like, it needs to be wider. I'm like, there's players that are missing that I can't see. I felt the same way about Cam Ward's rushing touchdown for 21 yards. I was like, where's the Cal defender? There's a Cal defender coming out of the screen somewhere. I mean, he's going to come out of the corner of my screen at any moment and tackle him. And he did. And now it's just like, I mean, listen, I'm not banking on, I'm not like complaining about it, but I was just like, wow, I'm like the Cal really gave this game up. And we can talk about officiating all we want, and people can complain who watch this. Who was I watching?
I don't
I
know,
think
but
Matt
half
Barry. I
these
think I was
guys,
watching the
they make
Matt
up.
Barry show this morning, and they were like, "Oh, the ACC is gonna get a ton of calls," and I'm like, "For what?" Like,
Yeah.
you can call that targeting. That's not targeting.
No.
There's nothing. That's called a football move. We play football, and
Well,
even
the
go ahead.
yeah, the tough thing about targeting is that it's usually against defenseless players. And here's the other thing, the ACC had a really, really bad injury that same day because I'm trying to remember what the quarterback's name is for NC State. Um, got absolutely annihilated
Concepcion.
by three. No, no, no. The quarterback, not the receiver.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Grayson McCall. Grayson McCall's the
McCall.
name of
Yeah.
the quarterback.
Hmm.
He's running and he gets annihilated by three different guys from Wake Forest. And the problem is, if you are not defenseless, if you're running and you're not as a quarterback sliding or giving yourself up, you're losing those rights as a player. So, Wesley Bassane comes in and hits him shoulder to shoulder. And there's a little whiplash is involved in doing that, but he's not leading with his head as much as people want to say that's what it looks like. People have very different colored tinted glasses based on what their affiliations are. And look, at the end of the day, yeah, there's going to be mistakes in officiating. They missed a bunch of stuff. The good part, I guess, is that Miami didn't leave it in their hands. I would argue
No.
that the targeting call probably could have put the game in Cal's favor, and had it been done for, Miami had all three timeouts, but still, you're giving them a first down with like 2 minutes to go. That's really hard to overcome.
Yeah.
It's just I'm yeah. Look, the national media hates Miami, and
It
now
is
that
what
we're
it
getting
is.
all this hate, we should be happy. We should be happy that people hate us again because we're not a
I love it.
joke anymore.
I love it. I love and it comes with the territories. And that's why we call it the Miami special holding, like these random phantom holds and holds. It's like we know it's gonna happen. We know we're gonna get random personal fouls. When even Mario said when I think it was Horton, let me look at my notes
Yeah,
really
the kick
quick.
on that
Yeah, the
like
kick,
next last
like,
drive.
but they were laying on him. Like there
Yeah,
were three players. Like, what do you expect the dude to do? The clock's running. They're like, yo, get up off me. Like it's at the end of the day, and Mario said it too. He's like, we're playing a game where we're crashing into each other as fast and as hard as we can for 3 hours. It's gonna get a little ugly, and that's what football's about. It's not patty cake. It's not hopscotch. You're gonna get knocked the hell out, and especially when your quarterback. Going back to the topic that we were just talking about, when your quarterback wants to make himself a target, you're gonna get targeted. That especially when the game is on the line, and especially if you're a linebacker who has 50 to 70 pounds more than the quarterback has on him. You're like, if I can knock this out of this quarterback's hand, I'm doing it. And so I don't blame Basaint. I love the tenacity. I love the grit. I love the hit. I thought it was clean. Again, people will have their opinions. They'll say what they want. What I do want to talk about though, Rudy, is there were some things that I noticed that were changes from the Virginia Tech game that were really, really, really good. I mean, again, it still was a rough game. It was still an ugly game, but I did like the fact that we were running outside the tackles. There was a lot more running outside the tackles. Um, there were some, I think the in-game switching of going from hero ball to okay, let's just do like our bread and butter. Let's get back to the meat and taters of football. It's like we don't
yeah.
have to play hero ball. I'm liking these adjustments. And that's why again I'm bringing all these things up just because these are things I'm hoping that we can see change. What were some things? Did you notice anything in the game that there were adjustments that you're like, okay, that gives me confidence going into the bye week and especially going into the week go as we travel to Louisville?
I think it's just how quickly do they put themselves back in the moment, because something that Miami has struggled with, even in that blowout win against USF, the win against Virginia Tech, the win against Cal, um, they at times seem like they make the game faster than it should be, and that they need to
Yeah.
get everything back in like one or two plays. If you go down, like, look, at least now they know we can be down a million points and we're always in it.
No,
It's
let's not,
just a
please.
matter of
No. No,
no,
please,
but
no.
it's good to have confidence like that, but at the same time, it should be reassuring to know that if you just execute the offense the way you're supposed to, you're going to be putting points up on the board. You don't need to go for the deep shot when it's not there. You don't need to hold the ball an extra 10 seconds, because the other problem with holding the ball for too long is that's when you get ineligible men downfield penalties, you get holding calls, you get
Yeah.
other things that happen because you don't know when the ball is supposed to be let go. The timing is there where the route is supposed to break at a certain point, the blocking is supposed to give at a certain point and get upfield. So the thing that I'm looking forward to is, yes, everybody getting healthy going into the bye week against Louisville.
Hmm.
Hey, Louisville's got two losses now, to Notre Dame and to the Miami Hurricanes second string SMU, going in there and taking care of business. So look, both teams have a lot to prove, but Miami's going to be focused and be prepared. They're going to be rested. So all good signs.
Yeah, I think what I liked also, I just, as you were speaking, I thought about this too. I noticed a difference in the way Cam approached, hitting the pocket, right? So like in the first half and even in the third quarter to a certain extent, he was trying, he would waggle out, boot out, and try and make something happen. Whereas in those final couple of drives, there was a quick release. It was that what we saw the first three or four games where it was laser, laser, laser. I mean, some of them sailed, some of them were off target, but the release was still quick. It was precise in terms of his judgment, in terms of where he wanted to go. He wasn't trying to figure things out, and then he would check to his receivers that he needed to check down to if he needed to check down. And I thought that was a great in-game adjustment, and it gave me faith. And just to hear Mario say things about Cam, calling, like looking in his eyes and knowing that he had it, like that there wasn't fear and that he knew he was going to will himself to victory. It's like you see that, but it's awesome to know that you have a coach that is behind you, but that also believes it as well. Like it's not Mario just like, oh, I don't know what Cam's doing. He's like, no, he's like, we have a dude, and then the dude is gonna let it fly. He's gonna let it sling. He's gonna sling it, and he's gonna do what he's got to do. And so I just am very impressed. I'm a little scared because it's like I feel like we are flirting with losing a little too much. And like they were like, okay, how close can we give Virginia Tech? It's like, nah, a couple points. And this one was like 25. And I'm like, no, no, we don't need any more than that. This doesn't need to be like this. It's like, and especially when you watch like Bama go down to Vanderbilt, which we'll talk about on Friday, you're just like, we're going to be that number because if it happens to Bama, it
Yeah,
should.
Bama, Tennessee lost at Arkansas.
I mean,
Michigan lost. Oh, USC lost, by the way. He didn't like that Minnesota prediction. How about
I
that
didn't,
one,
but
bud?
you called that. I did. It didn't though. When you watch that game going into the fourth quarter, you're like, okay, you're like, yeah, you're like, I mean, USC's they're doing pretty decent. They're gonna get, and then
Yeah.
quickly like that. We'll get into that on Friday. But anything else, Rudy, about the game that stuck out that we haven't talked about, that we haven't chatted about? I'm exhausted. Like I'm looking forward to going to bed after this, but I knew I wanted to do this because I couldn't wait till Friday to do this. This was something we
No.
needed to talk about. I'm excited going into this bye week. We're going to talk about this week because I believe we're halfway through the season.
Yeah.
This is week 7, so we're pretty much halfway through the season. We've completed half of our games already as a team. So I think we'll get into like a mid-year report. We'll go into and we'll detail on Friday some of the things that we liked, what we didn't like, and what we hope to see in the second half. But Cal, anything else we missed, Rudy, that we want to talk about?
Um, the algorithm's still really nice.
They
The
are.
rest, the students aren't. The algorithm's still really nice, but in terms
I
of
won't
the
I
rest,
won't lie. This is the thing. I try and watch games now as objectively as possible now that we have this podcast. Even like our team. And for a split second, I felt bad looking at those kids because, like, they don't get games like this. I mean, this is like the first time in God knows how long they sold out a game. You know what I mean? I can't even remember the last time they sold out a game.
yeah,
And then they're so excited. Game day's there for the first time ever. They're playing lights out. They're controlling the pace. They've got time of possession. I mean, they are crushing it, especially that first half. And then to just watch the game slip through their fingers, like it's like part of me is like, ah, I'm sorry. But part of me is like, too bad. I'm so sad.
yeah, no, no. Surrender cobras are the nicest thing to see, and it's so nice to see. Yes, I mean
If you don't know
every
the
single
surrender,
one of their fans.
this is the surrender cobra.
Surrender
If you don't
cobra.
know,
Don't
you're
ever
just
do
like,
it.
I'm done. I quit. This is over. I
I,
mean,
I honestly, well, you know what's one thing we didn't talk about, and I
what?
like that Cristobal kind of like brought up in passing in the post game press conference. The air conditioning was broken in Miami's locker room.
Again,
Mysterious.
all things. I'm telling you, man, this was. I know I should just put like tinfoil. I'm going to bring tinfoil, by the way, and just have it next to me just in case when I ever have to make my tinfoil hat theories, I just put the thing on so people know what time it is. It felt like a setup. It felt like a setup. It's come
Yeah,
on. Like, and not only that, but in the one, let me, if you've never been to Northern California, it's usually never hot. And this was like the only weekend like this. And everyone will tell you this time of year, it's usually in the 50s at night. Like,
yeah,
so like a broken locker room, like a broken AC in a locker room wouldn't mean anything. It would just be tempered. It'd be nice, if anything. But the weekend that it's a hot weekend, your AC just, oh well, it just broke. Oh well, Stanford and Virginia Tech are going to play at 3:30, but you guys can play it at 7:30 local time, 10:30 Eastern. I just am like, and then you watch the officiating and then pushing that targeting call, them pushing like, oh, that looked like another face mask with Tyler Barron. I'm just like, okay, guys, this is it's a little skewed. It's like kind of feels like you want us to lose. Kind of feels like you
Well,
want us to
you
lose.
know, Brock Osweiler has his own history with Miami. It's not with the Miami Hurricanes. He has a lot of bad relations with the Miami Dolphins. We have to let him know that the college team is not the same as the NFL team.
It's not.
And Reese Davis was just putting in his hours because poor
Oh, that
guy's
poor
hosting
guy.
college game day 6 a.m.
Well,
and
because the
he,
original
yeah,
announcer had a family emergency. I'm not sure if you
yeah,
caught that at the beginning of the thing,
yeah,
and you could just tell Reese he was done. I mean, his voice
yeah.
was already gone at the very beginning, and he was announced, and then I mean,
Bloodshot. His
yeah,
eyes were like watery. He was
he was
down for the count.
toasted. Yeah, he was toasted, and then go figure, he has to call the second most exciting game of the day. I mean, that's the other thing, man. It's like I love the fact that ESPN hates us, but I'm just like, we are giving you ratings, and we are giving
Yeah.
you ratings during a time you would be dead. Because no, that's the whole reason the Pac-12 does. Well, I mean, okay, well, it does exist technically, but it doesn't exist in the way it has is because no one was watching their games. But I guarantee you, when the numbers come out on Monday, you're going to see this game was probably highly rated. I can't imagine that it's going to be a lowly rated game.
Did you notice that some of the television commercials in the broadcast were like literally targeted political, like proposition voting ads for California?
Yeah,
There was one on there for like, oh yeah, Prop 4. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, well, that's not our amendment for the we're voting on. And propositions are usually what you hear about in California, elections. They're going, oh, they really do think that nobody in our time zone is watching this game right now. That's how
yeah,
much they put together that broadcast.
and
So you're
it's
welcome, ESPN.
I know it's just, and again, at this point, I'm just like, hey, give us prime time, baby, because we are a show. And I'm not going to use the word before, but we are an S show at times.
No,
But it's
but
fun
hey,
to
that's
watch.
entertaining.
It
That's
is.
entertaining. Look, we talked about, on Friday about how, watching the dumpster fires there are Florida and Florida State. That's like me watching that's like my version of the Kardashians.
Yeah.
Women love to watch
Oh
women
man.
like bicker with each other. Watching them go down, we are the Kardashians for the rest of the toxic male persona across the country in college football.
I, literally, I'm telling you, because here's the thing too. It's like you're going to get one of two things. You're going to get Miami losing, so an undefeated will go down if you put us on
Mhm.
prime time too, or you're going to get the craziest show on earth with Cam Newton, like bar none. Again, maybe Pavia at Vanderbilt, but is there a more electrifying quarterback in college football right now? Like I can't
No,
think of someone who is literally willing their team to victory, and not only that, but has a brand for themselves. Like I got a chance, and we're going to talk about it on Friday again. But watching the Alabama Vanderbilt game, and they were like, "This is the most Pavia thing to happen. Like if this isn't Pavia, this is." And it's funny. Him and Cam Ward are two peas in the same pod because when you watch the game, when you watch the Cal game, if I was to just give you the game at the third quarter, you'd be like, okay, well Miami's out, but Cam Newton's still in that game, so I'm going to continue watching. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And sure enough, I'm like,
You're going Cam Newton instead of Cam Ward
oh, Cam, yeah,
on
exactly,
these
can't
games.
exactly, and to me, like
He's
that's
gonna
another
be
thing.
Cam Newton soon. You give him a
But
minute.
I think he's going to be better. I think
It's
I think he's legit. I mean, Cam Newton was great, but I mean, this kid is. I just don't. Again, the numbers he's putting up, even in a crappy game,
yeah,
even in a crappy game, he's still putting up over 400 yards.
yeah.
Like
Throws
this
for
is
two touchdowns, runs for an extra one, or throws for three touchdowns, goes
two
for yeah,
touchdowns. Those are two touchdowns, runs for one. Like it's just or three. Yeah, three. You're right. You're three.
yeah,
It's like no two touchdowns and
and
one
one
run.
rushing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one rushing. But like, I mean, even in a crappy game, it's like, how do you 437 yards?
no, he's
Come
the
on,
truth.
bro. Come on,
He's
come
the
on.
truth. Like
Those are
there's
literally video game numbers. Those are video game and like again, no, again, I want to give Cal their just due because they're such cool. The Cal algorithm is so cool. Like Fernando Mendoza was 11 for 22, 285. Like those are decent numbers, especially a number 8 team, like a
yeah,
top 10 team you're playing. Like those aren't bad numbers at all. Like that's better than what we've had in the past sometimes playing, especially a top 8 team. So I think Cal played their heart out. Sucks to be you, though. I mean, hate to say that, but it sucks to be you. And like,
Uh,
everyone tells us it sucks to be you, but no, it really sucks to be you
no,
guys.
we're collecting all of our receipts now. And look,
Oh,
we could do a deep dive into this on Friday. Talk about Miami's offensive numbers and what they're capable of doing. Video game numbers for Cam Ward. If you look at the offensive production for Miami in the first five, now 6 games, and you compare it to like 2019 LSU, for example, where it was like Joe Burrow and just a bunch of Ferraris putting up points on everybody, Miami's tracking higher
uh,
than that
we
team
are.
did.
Yep.
And and yeah, that's all you need to
Did I just lose you, Rudy? I think we just lost you again.
know.
Rudy, you there?
I see you sort of on screen, but it's like you're frozen. Did I lose you? I see you
Yeah.
now.
Okay. I lost you there. Go ahead. Repeat what you were just saying. My bad. You're talking about
Okay,
LSU.
so if you go back to yeah, it's the 2019 LSU team. Like if you look
Yep.
at the offensive production of that team through 5 or 6 games and look at
We're tracking the same
Miami's
numbers.
offense through 5 and 6 games, we're higher.
Yeah.
we're more productive than that team. And if you look at the schedules, Miami's playing stiffer competition than that LSU team did through 5 or 6 games. Can they keep it up? If they do, this is absolutely a title contender because they're
Absolutely.
not
I think so too.
going to get stopped.
Where it's the first time we're 6-0 since 2017, which was another phenomenal year where we destroyed Notre Dame. Thing I'm worried about though, that is also the year we lost to Pitt and Clemson in the last 2 games of the season, and we then
Mm,
lost to Wisconsin. That was a really bad ending. My hope doesn't go that way, and that we can win this B out and get to Charlotte quick and in a hurry.
yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have tonight. I need to get some sleep. Rudy needs to get some sleep, but we will be back on Friday. We will see you guys then. Again, I don't even know what to say because we won the weekend, guys. I guess we'll just hit him with the celly.
Yeah.
Hit him with the celly. We'll see you guys on Friday. Go Kings! We'll see you guys later.